All right.
Right.
I won't pollute
Okay.
you. So.
And just so you are aware, we are recording. So okay.
I got that right.
Is my,
All right. Very
is
good.
my yell there?
No, we didn't get that. Sorry. All right. Whenever you're ready. So we're thinking 6 to 8 minutes of presentation, then there's going to be some question and answer.
Oh, I'm playing for 15.
Yeah, that's 10 to 15 when we were
Well,
walking out.
It's if you can, what you can cut.
If you can speak for 10 to 15, that'd
We
be
just like
fine.
a surprise if
Chop
you
me
guys
off
on
at
your
a certain
toes.
point, take me food.
All right, that's fine.
Well, you guys know my name is Solai Wyman, and the title of my project is From King Leonidas to Lord Farquaad, Popular Culture and How Authority is Portrayed in Popular Film of 2000 to 2009. In a modern age that is completely dominated by technology and entertainment, the role of things such as film is steadily growing in American culture and politics. So film and politics are said to inform one another, which means that things that are represented or presented in film actually reflect what's going on in real life and the society that is taking place. People are heavily influenced by entertainment such as film, even when they don't think they are. And film arguably acts as a model for behavior, and it can potentially shape political attitudes and behavior and perceptions of how the world operates. So, using that information, I formulated my research question: what is the political content of popular films of the 2000s in terms of authority, and what does this suggest about the culture and view on authority of the millennials as a generation? I picked this time, this decade, and this generation because I saw some other research about the 60s up to the 90s, and I am a millennial, so I thought it was going to be really interesting to see what my generation is exposed to. And it's believed that young people are the most susceptible to the themes and messages that are presented in films, such as political ones, because they're malleable, they're adaptable, and their attitudes are still shaping. They're just as influenced by film as they are family structure and economic status. So the basis of my research was the cultural theory by Thompson, Ellis, and Wodelsky, and they divide culture into 4 main categories, which are individualism, egalitarianism, hierarchy, and fatalism. There's a 5th one, but I didn't expect it to come out into my research, so I didn't really note it that much. But I'm going to draw the matrix that they set this up in that makes it easier to understand. And I'm going to breathe for a minute.
That's a good idea.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Okay. So they define it, or the 4 categories, by the level of group and grid that each one of them has. And that is high, and that is low. And group means the level of integration into the group. So in a society that's high group, the individuals are defined by the group. If you're a member of the society, your decisions are heavily impacted by the group as a whole. Grid is the level of restrictions or limitations placed on the group. So in a high grid society, there's going to be a lot of restrictions and limitations placed upon people by a higher authority or government. I think it was that backwards. This is good.
Yeah. That's right.
This is how I want it.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So, to fill this in, the first one is going to be individualism, which is low group and low grid. In an individualistic society, there's limited restrictions from the government, and people aren't really obligated to a group or any type of community. Individuals are free to do as they choose. Generally, they don't want any sort of government telling them what they can and can't do. Egalitarianism is going to be high group. In this culture, people are very much focused on the group as a whole and equality within the group and making decisions based on the best interest of the entire group. It's also low grid. Egalitarianists don't want an authority, like individuals don't want an authority figure telling them what they can and can't do. Fatalistic society is low group and high grid. In this type of culture. People have a lot of restrictions placed upon them from the government that doesn't really allow them to do much in it or be involved in any sort of decision-making process. It's also low group. The grid kind of basically keeps them restricted down on like the lowest level of society, so there's not much going on with group either. To finish this out, hierarchy is high group and high grid. In this society, there is definitely authority that dictates what people can and can't do, but it's also high group, and it's slightly different from egalitarianism because it's not so much that people need to be equal, it's that there's probably going to be some type of like division within the group that has some people at the top being the elites who make the decisions and some people at the bottom who don't. Okay, so the method, what I did to conduct this study, I watched 21 of the most popular films of the decade. I used the box office sales, so most of these films are probably over like the $200 million mark in the American box office sales. These films include Shrek, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, Dark Knight, Avatar, 300.
You're doing fun.
So some of the questions, how I did it was I broke the films up into 6 parts. At 10 minutes in, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, 70 minutes, 90 minutes, and well, those 5 categories I watched for 3 minutes. I'm getting really, really hot.
You're doing great.
You need to take some water.
Take some water?
Do you want us to ask you some questions for a while and come back to it?
I'm good. I just got really hot all of a sudden.
Okay, that's all right.
That's very interesting.
I wrote down your matrix. I'm gonna start using that in my class. That's cool.
I'm writing down different box office numbers.
Oh, Jesus.
You're all right. We're all friends here.
I know. I just expected this to happen.
You're my friend.
No, we're not friends.
Oh.
We're all like so.
We're all friends with Solai.
Right.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I didn't realize our relationship had changed.
We're still enemies.
So, I asked for every scene that I watch. Oh my gosh! But I get them. I think done.
Did you do all this watching non-stop?
The films, no, it took about a week. I probably watched all of them over a week.
Busy week, huh?
Did you find that a lot of these were kid movies?
Well,
I always heard they were the biggest box office sales.
So that was a mix.
It was a mix.
She selected them because they were young people and children.
That makes sense.
Animated?
Shrek is.
Well, I didn't hear Shrek.
Well, it's Lord Farquhar is in the title, Weinberg.
That's from Shrek?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
I think good.
Okay.
So for these 5 scenes that I watched for 3 minutes, I coded several questions. Was authority present in the scene? If so, which type? Was it a teacher, a parent, government official? Also coded what was the attitude towards these officials or authoritative officials? Was the attitude supportive towards these characters? Was it antagonistic? Were people feeling subservient underneath these authority figures? Then I also coded the conflict. Was there conflict present? Who was it between? Was it between an institution and a group? Was it between individuals? I also asked who was to blame for the conflict, if anyone. Was the individual blamed for their own problems? Was society as a whole blamed? Or was maybe like a god figure of some sort? Finally, we asked how was the conflict resolved? Was it resolved by authority coming in and dictating some sort of solution, or was it by deus ex machina, which is the intervention of some sort of higher power, godly like fate coming into play? Sort of just run through the previous history that I found in my research. In the 60s, it was full of very positive messages towards authority. However, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it sort of switched back, and there was a huge lack of support from government, or for government, because of social problems and civil rights issues. I saw some research that talked about the early 2000s, which was full of a lack of cynicism following 9/11, but that is said to have changed to sort of trust no one theme afterwards. So it was interesting to see how my results would compare to that. My main hypothesis was American exceptionalism is going to prove to be still a phenomenon. This theory says that America is a combination of some of these cultures, not just one. It's actually a combination of individualism and egalitarianism, so that people are, or they do cling to their individual rights, but that there is also some communal ties within society as well. Of the 121 films, or 21 scenes that I coded in total, 99 were shown to have some type of authority in it. 98 had conflict, and most of the films had between 3 or 6 scenes within, or which authority was betrayed or conflict was apparent. So there was.
At least you're not doing that, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We did that to throw you off, sorry.
I did a good job.
Wait do you see what I do?
Okay, yeah, so like I had so many questions and so many different variables across the research that like I could sit here for a long time and talk about it, which I don't want to, because I'm obviously not good at it. So I tried to maybe do a overall type of chart that would basically summarize which of the cultures would be most prevalent. And interestingly enough, I found that there was significant levels of every one of the categories. So like how I did this was like, for example, if a scene had an authority figure in it and if the attitude towards that authority figure was supportive, then I marked that down as hierarchy. If there was blame for a conflict and it was on maybe society itself, then that's going to be marked as egalitarianism. So I calculated the 4 main variables, which I thought were authority, conflict, blame, and conflict resolution. And those calculations, I got these percentages. And the one that's most prominent is individualism at 31.1%, but hierarchy is right behind it at 26.2%, and egalitarianism and fatalism both have 21.3%. So there's definitely significant numbers of all 4 of them. But it still backs up the American exceptionalism theory that there's still a combination of individualism and egalitarianism. I thought it was worth mentioning that one error in this study was possibly that in some of the films like Shrek and Avatar, there was definitely authority in the films, it just didn't show up in the coding. So Avatar was a really cool example. I think there's clear themes of egalitarianism and even fatalism in that film through the Na'vi people and their like equality and central focus on the group itself, as well as like a mixture of nature and a higher power that helps in society. So with stuff like that, and how that did show up in coding, that possibly skewed my results to a certain degree. So in conclusion, I conclude that Generation Y is exposed to high levels of individualism with high levels of support for authority, but also distrust for authority in some cases. So we're still a culture that is very individualistic, but we will also take some type of intervention from authority or government, but in other cases we might be a little bit weary of the decisions that they're making. So if film is truly an agent of socialization, which my research supports that it is, and that it does shape the way in which people think and how they view government and decide what they want from their government, then it is important to understand what exactly is being portrayed in popular films of the time and conclude what that means for American society. My conclusion is that individualism is a trend in American culture, and it will probably continue to be so, with some levels of hierarchy as well as egalitarianism thrown in, which arguably makes for a sustainable and favorable society.